What's up, Jammies? Welcome back to another episode of Ricky's Ram Jam, presented by Barefoot Wine. We are turning up the Club Barefoot vibes today because 2025 is already off to a Ram jamming start. I hope everyone has been having a nice, relaxing offseason so far. Okay, the entire league has been making splashy moves across free agency, but the Rams have signed and re-signed some key players, and I need to celebrate it with you and break it all down. And joining me to do so in Club Barefoot is senior writer for The Athletic, Jourdan Rodrigue. Hello is senior writer for The Athletic, Jourdan Rodrigue. Welcome to the club. You got
What's
VIP,
up?
baby.
I feel the vibe, feel the rhythm.
Let me pull the red carpet, the red, whatever it is, bow, table. What am I trying to say? Rope, the red velvet rope. The red table, red velvet cake, all of that. And Jourdan, welcome into Club Barefoot.
Thank you. You've added to the bottle collection behind you. I love that. I love that. I enjoy some wine on occasion. Some champagne.
We all love
Prosecco
that.
Action. It's summer coming up. Rosé.
I know. So the new league year, here we are. We have arrived. Okay.
We did it. You and I, we did it.
We both did it. We did it. Rams fans, I think are pretty happy overall with free agency, and this is our free agency frenzy, as we cap off free agency show. I want to list some major signings and moves, and then we'll dive into them deeper. Okay. So The Rams said goodbye to Cooper Kupp, but they re-signed Matthew Stafford. We can all sleep better now. They re-signed Jimmy G as backup, which I'm interested to hear your thoughts, because I'm actually very excited about that. We re-signed Tutu Atwell, which when I saw that, I audibly was like, yes, which was great. Left tackle Alaric Jackson got his bag. We brought Akello Witherspoon back, who had a birthday earlier last week. So happy birthday to him. We signed defensive tackle Poona Ford. We brought back center Coleman Shelton. And there was another receiver we signed. I don't remember where he played. What was his name? Oh, Davante Adams. Yeah, we signed Davante Adams. All right. So there obviously there's a lot to talk about. And who better than the beauty and brains of The Athletic, Jourdan? The Rams have their quarterback. Whew, let's exhale. How much stronger is this offense with number 9 back under center?
Yeah, I mean, it's almost a no-brainer, right? It's like this was the A+ plan all along for this team. It was interesting as all of that unfolded. Obviously, I was covering that pretty closely for The Athletic, and once they were able to come to an agreement for him coming back in 2025 on the adjusted contract, they were able to then set in motion their A+ free agency plan. So the impact of Matthew Stafford coming back wasn't just that he quite obviously elevates this offense into elite level, but also it has an impact on the entirety of the team build overall on the rest of the roster, because signing Matthew Stafford and not just agreeing to the adjusted contract, but knowing what the number was, then that allows you to give a definitive number to Alaric Jackson's camp and extend him early in free agency versus letting him hit the open market, where I heard he was going to have some competition, especially with Ronnie Stanley going back to Baltimore. And, getting your guys done early is what good teams do. And then it allowed you to give Poona Ford's camp, once the legal tampering window opened, like a definitive number. Right? It allowed you to basically do all of this roster math and really understand how and who and the A+ plan, especially with Alaric, Davante, and Poona being the top targets of this team and the top deals that they needed to get done. But they had to figure out Matthew Stafford first. And so that was why not just the timing of all of this was crucial, and why that Friday morning meeting with Sean McVay and Kelly Stafford was like so important, with all of them together, just like having this really good conversation about what the year ahead was going to look like, what the plan was, how badly Sean McVay made it clear, like this, as he had the entire time, like, hey, we want you to be our quarterback. We are better organizationally with you as our quarterback. With the Staffords here, we are better organizationally. And so I think that was just something that set up this domino effect where it's like you saw the impact right away, not just what you're going to see on on the field this fall.
Yeah, he was the domino that let everything else fall. That's exactly where my mind went too. Jimmy G locked in as backup. That was really fun to see as well. Also, it was nice to see, when he was speaking, was like, when it comes to organizations and places that I want to be, like the Rams is where I want to be. So like, I enjoyed reading that.
You know what's kind of cool? I got Mike LaFleur vibes from that too. Like, because there's something to be said for being happy. Like I know that there's like a lot of bag chasing that
like?
happens early. I know, right? Tell me. There's a lot of bag chasing that happens early in these players' careers. And sometimes you can go into these directions or start taking these paths. And then you wake up one day and you're like, what have I been doing? Like, I'm not happy. Like, what is this? And when talking to Jimmy about coming back to Los Angeles, where he quite clearly was very happy. I mean, that is an all vibes quarterback room with Dave Ragone, with Mike LaFleur, with Sean coming in and out of the building, with Matthew Stafford coming in and out of the room, like, Stetson Bennett, like it's an all good vibes room. And I feel like that's a scouting strategy we have to figure out if you're Les Snead, how to quantify is how can you just concoct a room, backup quarterback's room with like immaculate vibes, and then you'll be successful and you'll keep the guys on cheaper deals than they could have gotten elsewhere. So I feel like this is, it's important. There's something to be said for being happy. The reason I say I get Mike LaFleur vibes is because Mike LaFleur is a dang good coach, and yet he's happy being in his position. He's happy being the offensive coordinator of the Rams. Jimmy Garoppolo could have options elsewhere, but he's happy being the backup quarterback of the Rams. So I think that there's something to be said for reaching that level in your life, not just your career. That's sort of refreshing, especially in this sort of like churn and burn industry.
Right.
That you just really have to sit back and enjoy it for a second, that like you're watching this guy like actually be happy and comfortable where he's at without going out and getting more money.
Yeah, and at the end of last season, we really saw the Rams O-line really congeal and really start to be this like really powerful line. How integral is a part of re-signing Alaric Jackson to a 3-year deal?
Well, it's huge. I mean, if you look at their line in general, it's like, so Rob Havenstein, who's been the stalwart of that group for so many years, he's the only one now entering the final year of his contract. At his age and at his tenure, that's sort of expected. But everybody else is under contract for at least the next 2 years. And you also have Steve Avila, who's playing still on his rookie deal, and he will be due for an early extension coming up here over the next year or so. Over the next year. And so I think that is where you really look at, okay, we know what the numbers are going to be, but we also know what the output and what the production and what the continuity is going to look like on this offensive line. Coleman Shelton on the 2-year deal, then Kevin Dotson is entering year 2 of that 3-year extension he signed. And then Alaric, who has the 3-year extension. All of these guys are they're working at continuity here, and it's a group that clicks. They vibe with each other. Everybody sort of looks to Big Rob as the leader and the captain, but they all really vibe. And I think that that's really important too, is to like have that alignment, not just as a continuity group that they know how to play together and they like playing together, but also like contractually they are all aligned, so the Rams can know again what the rest of their numbers look like elsewhere on the roster.
Yeah. Let's dive into probably the biggest signing, wide receiver Davante Adams. How does he change the dynamic of this wide receiver room and the offense? And also, can we talk about Coach McVay sending him narrated, highlighted videos as part of the recruitment process?
Yeah, somehow the least surprising thing ever, right? Like,
Ever.
It's like,
Imagine being on vacation, like in Japan, and you're like, "Oh, sorry, babe, my phone keeps going off," and he's like, "Hey, Davante, Sean again here. You see how like that I would pay to see those videos."
Well, I talked to Davante about this aside from his press conference when he was in the building to sign his contract. And it was so funny because he kept refreshing his phone and like refreshing his Wi-Fi because the first video wouldn't load because it was 7 minutes long. So he's thinking like something's wrong with my Wi-Fi. Maybe I don't have a signal, whatever. So he's like restarting his phone, whatever. And then finally when it loads, he's like, oh, it's because it's 7 freaking minutes long, and like so funny, right? So I feel like this is a classic Sean McVay recruitment story. You hear so many of these stories every single offseason, every single free agency period. But it's a bittersweet thing, right? Endings and beginnings are so hard, and to have a beginning, usually another person's tenure has to end,
Right.
and like so, it's really hard for Rams fans, and I think it's hard for everybody to not see Cooper Kupp walking around there anymore. To not to he was like a catalyst for this franchise in so many ways, schematically and on a personal level too. And then to have now this receivers room now being rebuilt and funneled through an ascending superstar in Puka Nacua, well, you could see from a schematic standpoint what the vision was. And that is get another player. First of all, speed threat, Tutu Atwell, that's your guy, and he already knows your system. And I think every coach in that building, including Sean McVay, would admit that he's been underutilized over the last several years. And then you look at a guy who can not only align from the slot. We know he can do that. We know he gets open fast. We know he gets open from a variety of alignments, including in the inside, where Puka Nacua will get a lot of his work as well. But Davante Adams is also a quintessential perimeter receiver too. He can basically exploit every blade of grass, and you'll hear Sean McVay say that a lot when he's talking about Davante Adams. He can exploit every blade of grass on the field, and he can tilt coverages in different directions because of his presence and his ability and his trustworthiness, coming off a fourth consecutive 1,000-yard season, despite all of the chaos that he experienced last year. And he's a culture fit. He is a really really extraordinary football mind. Like, he's a big dork when it comes to talking football, when it comes to talking life, really connecting with the people that he's with. Connecting with Sean McVay already, I have no doubt that he and Matthew Stafford will get along great. And so it's a bittersweet thing, right? Because to have this exciting new idea and to know that you're on the cusp of your scheme, Sean McVay's scheme, really moving into its fourth iteration, its fourth era, if you will, since his tenure in Los Angeles. Now that's coming with different people than what it was before. And it's a hard thing to see if you're a fan. It's a hard thing to experience for anybody in the building, especially if it's happening to you. But I do think that it is a signal that this Rams offense is going to look the same, but very different at the same time.
Yeah, and Puka changed from, number 17, which Davante will take, to number 12, a number that has a very special family meaning. And if you haven't seen it, the Rams did a really cool feature on Puka and the meaning of 12 to him, and that it was really awesome. So if you haven't seen it, you should definitely check it out. And I'm excited to watch defenses trying to stop Davante and Puka with Tutu and that speed threat. So Jordan Whittington had a great year too. Like, there's a lot, and I've been seeing him working out with Puka and some of those guys, and it's gonna be a really fun offense. On the defensive side, okay, we brought in defensive tackle Poona Ford. What do you think he'll bring to this young and exciting D-line, and maybe also some untapped potential as a pass rusher?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's what the Rams think of him. They've been admirers of Poona forever. I mean, he was one of the undrafted free agents that they were targeting but could not get, right? Way back in the day. And so this is one of those things where this defense, you could already see where it is going to be supremely talented for several years to come. And that's in the pass rush. And that's some of the safety play that we're seeing out of these really young and really ball hawking type of safeties that they brought in. And they've got steadiness at cornerback, bringing back Akello to make sure that they're not like going hungry in the draft when they like look at the position, the cornerback position. That's very important, right? And he's got this steadiness alongside Darius Williams. But the one thing that just they were missing, to the point of being among the worst in the league last year, was defending the run. And it would kill them in these moments where I think you could see in a couple of different phases where they identified very specific issues. And then this is a team that knows it's very close to getting back to the Super Bowl, is basically my point. They identified very specific detail issues and went about fixing that issue. That's what teams who don't have a lot more to do, right? Mm-hmm. And so that was a signal to me of them being like, hey, we're close. We just got to fix these two little things. And one was getting Coleman Shelton back for communication along the offensive line. And then the other was Poona Ford, and getting somebody who will get in the way and stay in the way. And they don't want to substitute as much. I think that was at their detriment a little bit last year was the amount of substitution that they did to just keep certain guys fresh. And they had a lot of young guys who were growing up in real time and like all of this stuff. And Kobe Turner was really the one who played the majority of the snaps. Well, you want to make sure that he can be freed up to pass rush as well. He could be really dynamic still at nose, or he could be a super dynamic 3-tech, or shift him out into if they play an even front in some pass rush situations, you can kick him wherever you want to go. You can put Braden Fisk wherever you want him to go. You can put Jared Verse wherever. You can put Byron Young as like this speed and power like attack off the edge. Like, but you have to have somebody anchoring everything on a snap to snap basis, particularly shoring up those rundowns, those early downs, so that then you can free up your guys to go rush the passer. So I think that is where Poona Ford, who is one of the best run defenders in the entire NFL, it's not a knock on anybody else, but it is just them saying, okay, this is a problem. We've lost multiple games specifically because of this, where we would have been closer, had a chance otherwise. And I think back to that first overtime loss in Detroit, where like Matthew Stafford didn't even get a chance to get the ball at the end of the game. You sign a guy like Poona Ford so that Matthew Stafford has a chance to get the ball back at the end of the game. You sign Coleman Shelton so that, there's in the most crucial of moments, there are veterans everywhere instead of, really promising and very talented, bright young rookies. But you want to make sure that you're not getting some of these veteran moves pulled on you at the very end of these games. And so I think that that's the sign overall of a team that knows how close it is.
Yeah, and that we signed interior linebacker Nate Landman from Atlanta, which is great. And like you said, Akello Weatherspoon back there. Now that the bulk of free agency is over, what do you think the Rams are in most need of heading into the draft?
Yeah, I think depth at every position is going to be something that now they've set the table for themselves in the draft, where they could really go and pick at premium positions with their early picks, like corner. I actually wouldn't be surprised. It's a pretty solid class in a couple of different positions where like you could get a right tackle to eventually train up under Rob Havenstein, who could eventually maybe be a starter on this offensive line in the future. You probably think really hard about going to get a quarterback, a young quarterback. Les Snead and Sean McVay were both pretty open when I asked them earlier this year about how they really would like to get a young starting potential quarterback to learn from Matthew Stafford and like the encyclopedic amount of knowledge that he has about football in that like good vibes only quarterbacks room. Right. And I think that that's something that's could be something to really keep an eye on, especially in the second and third round for the Rams this year. I think they need to get a corner. That's my personal opinion. I think they need to keep infusing youth and athleticism and speed into that room. And I think that, they're always going to be looking at running backs. It's a really good class of running backs. They're always going to be looking at running backs, even though Kyron Williams is their guy. That's just a position that they're always going to be looking to restock. And I don't think they're done at receiver either. But I think that when you extend Tutu Atwell, not only are you making it clear to him that you are going to get him on the field and get him more of a target share, utilize him in different ways instead of him kind of just being kind of lost in the depth chart. You also are making it clear that you could get a receiver anywhere. You're not necessarily reaching for one in the first round. You're not necessarily sticking at a point that Les Snead likes to call no man's land or purgatory with that pick point that they're at right now. You can move around a little bit. You can add picks. You can make some trades. I think that doing everything they did in free agency, not only, like I said, just addressed a couple of final issues they think they have, and they were able to stay in their A-plus plan because of Matthew Stafford coming back. And now you can look at depth and like 2026, 2027 with this draft class, which is how you want to do it if you're a good team.
Absolutely. Jordan, before I let you go, it's time for the Ram Jam. It's the 2025 season, so we're going to refresh the questions.
I always forget that this is coming for some reason.
I know. Same premise, but different questions. Jordan, what is a red flag about you?
I work too much.
That is, I love that.
Like,
I think a lot of people
don't even need to think. Don't even need to think. That's what it is. Yeah.
Okay. If you weren't doing this job, where would you be right now?
In a van somewhere.
Like traveling or just chilling in a van?
Just chilling, like maybe in a mountain somewhere. Like
okay.
If I weren't doing this, I would
like a van.
I would 1,000,000 180. Like I would 180 so hard if I weren't like constantly going. If I just took a second and I stopped and I just was like, oh, maybe I'll take a year off or whatever, I would revert
Just
so
van
like
life.
I would go full like New Zealand somewhere. She's
Oh.
in a van, you cannot reach her. Like she's her hair is now down to her knees. Like we can't tell where the hair on her head begins. Like it's just like it would be gnarly. Yeah, it would be gnarly. Yeah.
I
have to work, Erica. I
would pay to see that. What is your favorite sports moment of all time?
Ooh, that's really hard. That's good though. Luis Gonzalez, little blue pit to help the Diamondbacks win the World Series.
Okay.
Do you know, actually, too, like, do you remember a couple years ago when after the Super Bowl, Van Jefferson, his wife, had gone into labor?
And he, like, ran off the field.
During the game.
Yes.
Yeah. So I was like, you can't see it in the video, but I was like off to the side, kind of like I saw everything happen. And I was like, that was so powerful to me. And I was like, what else is going to happen to this team this year? Like so many things happened in that Super Bowl year that I was sitting there and I'm like, and then also one of my favorite sports moments ever. I know I'm giving you three. You just can't pick one.
I love it.
When actually my first time standing in the back of the end zone when I saw for the first time Matthew Stafford throw a no-look pass to Cooper Kupp and Jalen Ramsey was in coverage. And I yelled like 7 swear words. And I'd never seen anything like that in person before. It was just so cool. And so it was like my brain broke a little bit in that moment. So I was like, okay, I'm going to remember that forever.
I love that. And Jammies, if you're following along on YouTube, let us know in the comments what your favorite sports moment of all time is. You see that? See that like engagement, Jourdan?
Anything Simone Biles does, also that too.
That's a pro. Jourdan, thank you so much. As always, Rams fans are so lucky to have you covering this team. You are so knowledgeable and such a breath of fresh air. And thank you for joining me on the Free Agency Frenzy show.
Anytime. You're lucky you caught me before I go into my van. So
yeah, exactly. You guys, if you never hear from Jourdan again, we know where to go first. Awesome, Jourdan. Thank you so much. That does it for this week's Ricky's Ram Jam. Thank you so much for hanging out with us, and thank you, Jourdan. Time moves so quickly, and we'll be back soon with the draft preview. Did you guys know the draft is a month away, by the way? Like, what is happening? As well as a draft recap episode. Ton of amazing content coming your way. I'm so pumped up going into this season, and I hope you are too, Jammies. But until next time, from 2025, let's ram it.